Hello, good morning, and thanks for joining us for another edition of Political Platform. Today, the President will be at the National Assembly to present a 19.76 trillion 2023 budget. Wow, that is the largest, the biggest budget presentation in history of Nigeria. Well, it's not surprising because of rising inflation and other issues, post-COVID issues as well. The budget is hinged on $435 exchange rate and also total revenue expectation 8.46 trillion naira. Borrowing expectation, we have been borrowing and we're still having expected 8.43 trillion to be borrowed in the 19.76 budget presentation. Let's wait and see how that goes. We know that a lot of sectors are expecting the budget to be like the education sector, the women and gender agricultural sector, the health sector are expecting the budget to give them a large expectation. Also, on this program, we'll be looking at the appeal court ruling today on the ASUU and federal government issue. Remember yesterday, the appeal court, a day before yesterday, had asked the parties to settle out of court. And yesterday, the appeal court heard them, and the ruling will be delivered today. Also, we'll look at the return of who some people call the city boy, the APC presidential candidate, after 12 days out of the country. And the biting issue of flooding is still with us. And as we look at this, let me welcome my colleagues. I'm standing in for Amechi Anakwe. Anyway, he's here, but he's going for a program on TV. Dr. Amechi, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
TV Tiap. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, good morning, Bulu. Good morning, listener. For a normal country, we're a normal country. At some point, I argued with somebody who said Nigeria is not a normal.
No, some say we are not a nation yet.
Definitely, we are not. But for
some say it's nations state.
Exactly.
Different nations in a state.
Mm-hmm.
The ultimate is to have a nation state.
Exactly.
The different nationalities still pulling very strongly within the Nigerian state.
Exactly.
But we hope one day we'll have that nation state.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully. So a budget is what almost everybody looks forward to in any country, especially the private sector. The citizens also look forward to that because it provides direction as to where the economy will be headed in the next fiscal year. Last year I said I was not so, everybody was upbeat about it. This year I am not also because of what we've seen over time. And the good thing is before now it was difficult. You wait until the president presents, that's when you know the figure, but with MTEF and fiscal FSP,
fiscal
strategy paper, you get to know the parameters and all of that before eventually that is done. So most of what will be presented today, we are already conversant with the parameters. What we may possibly be looking at is the sectoral allocation and the priorities, as it were. But we are told about different scenarios as to how we may not have capital projects. We are told of several things, and especially coming a day or two after the World Bank downgraded its growth forecast for Nigeria to single digit and all of that. Then clearly it points towards a particular day, and the same World Bank has predicted. The World Bank of IMF has said, look, the entire world is heading to a recession by next year. So are we going to have the third recession? Nigeria going to a third recession under Buhari presidency before he leaves? There's several other issues already. The OPEC is cutting down production, which will spike, the hike in prices of oil, which will also spike the hike in, subsidy that we're going to pay. So these are some of the things, and the U.S. is already threatening to respond to that. Don't forget they are going into their own midterm elections next November. The Democrats said, look, next month, they are going to respond. So we wait to see how they are going to respond, to the decision by OPEC. But certainly, Nigerians, what they should look out for next year is austerity measures from the individuals, families, local government, states, and the federal government.
Okay, Amechi, before you leave us for the program on the budget presentation, the proposal here is saying the government is hinging the revenue on 1.6 trillion barrels of crude oil per day. With the oil theft, Amechi, do you think this is feasible?
We are doing at about 1 million per day. So there's a 600,000 shortfall we can't fill. Very shameful, very, very shameful. We have the capacity. We've done over 2 million before. But with the multinationals pulling out with the oil theft, we are struggling to do 1.1. So it's sad. We expect the security agencies to quickly ramp up activities to restore oil production so that we take advantage. It's been long when crude oil is sold for as much as $100 per barrel. We are missing out so much. And again, this is the last budget, the exit budget for Muhammad Buhari, the last before he leaves on May 29, and the one that will usher in the next government, the entry budget for the new government. The implication is that expect a supplementary appropriation as soon as the next government comes in, because it will redirect fiscal issues to suit his own policies.
I wonder what the president will title the budget. Is it consolidation? Is it exit budget? Is it?
Are we not tired of those nomenclature?
Well, you see, the budget is being.
But when you go to Cross River State, you get the real nomenclature.
As I said, education is demanding for 26% TV of this budget. Agriculture demanding for about 10%. Health demanding for about 15%. All declaration made in meetings in by UNESCO and of meetings held around the world demanding for allocation to these sectors from national budget. TV, what is happening to diversification? Everything on oil, the revenue from oil.
It's a huge point of concern, but the government will tell you we have done a little better in exports, especially non-oil exports. Recently, we saw a Nigerian delegation led by I think Nigeria Investment Promotion Council in London. Trying to work out because the truth is some of our goods when they are exported they are rejected for certain reasons that they don't.
I remember the yams that were exported. To London, yes.
Even cowpea, what we popularly call beans. From Nigeria, there are issues. So and we need to.
I think they stayed too long on the high sea, probably. So they begin to spoil.
It's part of it, but again, don't forget the world has advanced in the variety of some of these things, that are being produced. It will interest you to know that okra, for instance, for you to sell it in Europe, if you pick up the okra, you see it has certain edges.
There are varieties.
Yes, there are varieties of it. The variety that we normally grow in our backyard and some farmers grow is not the same one that the Europeans use. So if you want to export it, it must have certain number of ages, as it were. So we need to, and it's because we've not paid so much attention to agriculture over time. So we've been unable to develop, up to global standards. But I hope that with the renewed intention on non-oil exports, we'll pay more attention on agriculture. So much more that we need to do. I'm scared. I'm afraid for Nigeria. Into 2023, besides all these external measures I'm talking about, the flooding, has done so much damage to agriculture.
I was watching my colleague in Lokoja did the report yesterday, Amechi TV, and one wonder all the fighter jets, the speedboats, the display helicopter you don't have them deployed to provide succor for these persons that are displaced. You don't have them distributing food. Where are they packed? These persons they've been affected by flooding and they're just moving on. They're just trekking. They don't have vehicles. They don't have means of movement. I should have expected the flying boats are deployed there. The ferries are deployed there. Helicopters even are deployed there to lift them from the flood ravaged areas, and also food distributed. But you can't see all those ones. NEMA is waiting until the flood recedes before they bring in relief material. That is not the training I got from NEMA. NEMA had equipment which they can penetrate into such areas and distribute food and rescue persons. What is happening?
Nothing stops NEMA or any other agency from requesting support from the Nigerian Air Force. I'm sure they would gladly be of assistance in such direction. I maybe perhaps we need to get NEMA to respond to some of these questions, as it were, but clearly the response rate is very poor. From the reports we're getting from Kogi, from Benue, from Adamawa, from Taraba, even parts of Borno, it's not anything to go. I can tell you that from the news reports that some of us have been monitoring, perhaps only in Jigawa State, that after over 100 persons died, I think last week or so, the federal government deployed relief materials to the person after such a long time. The deployment is very slow. I don't know whether if they don't have enough stock or they are waiting for a presidential directive.
But it's an emergency. They have emergency funds. But that ecological funds are also there.
The ecological funds are actually to take care of erosion sites, and all of that. Apart from the truth of the matter, we pay so much attention on the federal government, we neglect what the states should be doing. In these states, that there was forecast, there was prediction for rainfall. The only thing the states made was relocate to higher ground. With such, you are supposed to also stock your stores with material so that if there is an emergency in such a situation, you'll be able to respond. What has those states? What have they done? In terms of providing succor to.
But you see, we also have Nigerians are also, stubborn in a way, because some believe that those lands are their ancestral homes, and they only live there for a while. If floods come, then if you go there in January, you see the whole place is crowded. They have returned, and they are building, they are rebuilding, and they don't feel safe somewhere else. But I think what you are saying, TV, what the government should do is like what they did in Abuja. When the federal capital came to Abuja, the original inhabitants were relocated, shifted from the city center to outskirts, and they built houses for them. What stops states like Kogi State going to upland to build houses for these persons, take their kingdom or their chiefs, whoever they are, transfer them from that land to highland, so that they will be safer? Because each year, these floods come, and these persons will be flooded. Their rice, their fish, their whatever shifted away, and their deaths recorded.
It's rather unfortunate, but I would disagree with you on the issue of relocation. I'm not part of those who would tell people to relocate to higher grounds, as it were, because of what we've seen across the world. Like I keep saying, water is a huge resource. For countries that are managing it well, we don't even need oil, for instance. I'm talking of crude oil, for the country to be able to have the potential. Is it in electricity supply? That's what most times they call multipurpose. Is it in electricity supply? Is it in irrigation? Is it in fishing? There's several things, that you can do with that. And how many houses are you going to build? These are many communities. You need to look at the area view of the flooding in Lokoja that has stopped movement, to Abuja from that axis and all. You need to look at those pictures, those videos to see the impact. Are you going to relocate the whole of Lokoja or 50% of Lokoja, to somewhere else, as it were? The solution lies in us providing long-term, medium and long-term,
providing,
measures.
constructing new dams, dredging.
That's the only way. If you go to Thames, for instance, in London, you see houses, you see all of those just by the water. The people, it's life on its own, 24 hours.
I know very well. I've been to Bayelsa, and that's part of Delta State where people live on water. Their houses, their livelihoods on the water.
24 hours.
24 hours. You see them with their beds, with their children. They use small canoe to move around. I think let's go on this break. When we come back, we'll be looking at the issue of ASUU, the appeal court, and the city boy, Tinubu, is back, and the issue in Rivers State, where Celeste Umehia, the former governor, has been de-recognized by the House of Assembly as a former governor. Join us.
Your first day on the job. This is what your pension sounds like.